I have exciting news. My 911 Carrera T is back in Europe. Well, the ship carrying the container that contains my 911 Carrera T is back in Europe. It landed in the UK at 4 AM this morning, and that means that the legends at Cars, my Drive the World shipping and logistics partner, can now unload it, do all the paperwork, and send it down to meet me in Monaco next week. I cannot wait to have my car back. It feels like an absolute eternity ago that I waved goodbye to it in Perth. I mean, to be precise, I think it was about 67 days ago. I mean, I hardly remember what that car looks like, and that was a big squirm. You join me in the 911 Turbo S on a road above Barcelona, which is absolutely incredible. It's kind of the Mulholland Drive of Barcelona. I think we're sort of above Montserrat, and it's just this absolutely perfect rhythm of corners that is absolutely, it's the perfect place for a morning hoon. I saw that some rain is expected later this afternoon, so I wanted to get out early and film a sort of review video of this Turbo S before it got too wet. One small issue is that this road is covered in kind of leaves and mud and dampness, so it's making things a little bit exciting, I suppose. The reason I want to do a review of this car is because my time with it has come to an end. If you remember, when I announced the sort of start of the European leg, I said that I'd be using this car until Barcelona, which is where I am now, before swapping to the 992, the new Porsche 911, to take to Monaco, where I would then reconnect with my Carrera T. So, skip ahead 3 or 4 weeks, that is exactly what is happening. And in those 3 or 4 weeks, I have covered over 3,500 miles in this car. If you haven't seen any previous videos with it, Porsche UK very kindly lent me this stunning Turbo S as a sort of replacement for my Carrera T whilst it was out of action on a boat sailing back from Australia. And I have to say, it's a bit unfair of them to lend me this car, because the comparisons between a Carrera T and a Turbo S with carbon wheels is really night and day. I mean, this thing in a straight line is literally a rocket ship. I think only the McLaren 720S comes close to pure G-force experience when accelerating. Also, like the 720S, this car has many different characters. So just for 2 seconds, I'll come out of sport, go back into normal, automatic gearbox and cruise. Because everything I'd heard about this car was that it's the best A to B supercar. The perfect Grand Tourer. Like this, it is easy. Okay, fine, the ride's a little bit hard and maybe the steering's a little bit too direct for a sort of true comfy cruiser, but all in all, it's just fantastic. And then when you get to a road like this and find a straight, you can go into Sport Plus, which raises the rear wing, lowers the front, and do this. In this car, it's not, I mean, it's illegal is what it is. It is illegal, and that, you have to remember, is on a damp road. I was squirming and squelching and struggling for grip, and still I feel sick. Still my stomach is 3 miles down the road. It's just bizarre how it can take on different personas with the flick of a switch, this thing. However, having said that, it's missing something. I've personally never really lost it after the turbo, because it's always felt a little bit computerized to me, a little bit over-engineered. I know Porsche set out to make the best car that they could, and I think they have achieved that. There's nothing wrong with this car. It comes down to personal taste. What do you want from a £150,000 supercar? For me, it's always something a little bit edgy, a little bit racy. And whilst you might be seeing in the dampness of this road that I'm squirming a tiny bit, it's all still very controlled. You've got to remember, the turbo is 4-wheel drive, so it's very rare that it steps out of place. And it's not had one issue. I mean, I have abused this car over the last 3,500 miles. I'm Sorry, Porsche UK, if you're watching this, but I don't mean that I've trashed it. I just mean that I've done thousands of motorway miles. I've found twisties like this. I've taken it into dirty car parks. I've taken it underground car parks, put all my bags in it, shopping. It's just been used like a Renault Clio. Don't know if that's a bad thing that I'm comparing it to a Renault Clio, but it's as usable. But I just think I would like it to have a little bit more character. I've said before that the sound is disappointing. It's vacuum-like, you know, you just don't get a lot. I'm out here now really on a perfect road in a great car, but I'm not like, whee! When I flat out accelerate, okay, fine, it's a little bit like, whoa! But I'm not giggling, it's not a giggle car. So, it comes down to personal preference. But I have to say, it has been pretty special having the opportunity to use it for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think it's going to make going back to my Carrera T pretty difficult. Now, I want to find somewhere to pull over because I did ask for you guys to sort of submit your questions or what you wanted to know about this car when I filmed this video. So we'll cruise on down, go back into my comfy GT mode. Yeah, and find somewhere to pull up for 2 seconds. Okay, Eᴘɪsᴏᴅᴇ. How does this compare to your Carrera T in terms of fun? Is this too fast so you can't use all the power? I think I touched on that briefly. I know a lot of you are going to be like, you're mental, you're so biased, but the Carrera T just has a tad more emotion, okay? It's half the power nearly, but it's just with the no rear seats and the thin glass and the skinnier tyres, it's just there's something, and rear wheel drive. But this doesn't matter about the power because as I've shown in normal mode and automatic, it's still a fantastic car. Tell us how emotional the Turbo S is. That's Bluebird 1111. I think again I've touched on the fact that it is lacking emotion. Is a Turbo S really soulless? I think a lot of people kind of get the idea of the issues that surround this car. It's not to say it's bad, it's just comparison to a 911 GTS, which would you get? See, that's the interesting thing. I think a GTS is enough. I have to say, I don't think you necessarily need the step up to the Turbo S, but it's such an iconic 911, isn't it, the Turbo, and it's a bit of a big baller status. Let's keep going. Is the Turbo S a supercar? Arguably it has supercar performance, but does it still have that same kind of... It's hard to define what a supercar is in this day and age because power is just so ridiculous in all of these cars, but I'm not sure the Turbo S is a supercar. Walk around with option list and prices would be nice. Now, Porsche UK are very helpful. They give you this kind of printout document with all the equipment, the standard equipment and the optional equipment. What they don't include are the carbon fibre wheels. I think they were added late to this car because on this list, it claims it's got, where is it? The 20-inch 911 Turbo S wheels, which are a standard cost. There's not a lot else on here. Adaptive cruise control, which I have to say isn't that good. I've had better adaptive cruise controls. It's £1,300. It's just a little bit, it slams on its brakes a bit too often for my liking. Interior trim package, 1,600 quid, but I mean, yeah, it's got contrast stitching and stuff. But yeah, not a ton of options on this car, it has to be said, because the Turbo is pretty well equipped as of standard. So let's power through. Afraid of scratching the rims, yes. Vicky, my girlfriend, is so fed up with me being like, watch out for the carbon wheels. Everywhere we go, I've been terrified because it's not my car and I don't really know what happens if I damage them, but I don't want to have to send that email to Porsche UK. Is there a dramatic difference in the cabin noise of the T versus the Turbo S? Yes, massively. I just mentioned it. It's not just the thinner glass. The thinner glass is, well, a tiny bit of a gimmick, I think. It's the no rear seats. And funnily enough, we had some people sitting in the back whilst in Ibiza, and they both said that it's a lot louder and a lot more of a visceral experience in the back because you're closer to the engine and the exhaust noise. A lot of that engine and exhaust noise comes through into the cabin in the Carrera T, which is maybe what makes it feel a bit more exciting. Consumption, this is an interesting one. Porsche are very good because they give you these readouts, these trip readouts. So let's see, there we go, 25.3 mpg. The reason I'm reaching for my wallet is actually this gives me a good opportunity to talk about one of the partners for Drive the World, which is Curve. I did some posts about these guys on Instagram recently, but this card right here is the only card that I'm traveling with during Drive the World, not just because they're a partner, but because they're fantastic. Essentially, this card has all of my normal Visa and MasterCards loaded onto it. I can select which card I want it to be a sort of front for via an app, and then I just use this like a normal card. I go around the world. It means I get 0% international transaction fees. You know when you travel abroad and you buy something for €100 and then suddenly you get back and you've been charged £103 and you can't work it out? That's because of banking fees. This gets rid of that. The good thing is, though, unlike sort of other competitors, I suppose, you haven't got to load it up all the time. That's what annoyed me about previous travel cards. I always had to load it up with credit. This just acts as a front to my other cards. It's absolutely brilliant. It also logs all of my costs and everything like that in the app, so I can constantly keep an insight as to how much I'm spending on things like petrol. But it also saves me money when I'm topping up, because to fill this car up from empty has been about 80 or 90 euros. It's telling me right here, so far this month, I've spent £444 on food and drink. I'm worried that that's all going to be coffee. The guys have given me an extra special promo code of STG19, which means you get £5 of credit if you sign up using that code. So there we go. I wanted to mention that. It was worthwhile because those guys have been great and have been really helping me out. One last question before we get back onto the road in this thing. Should Porsche still make Turbo S's with manual gearboxes? I'm going to say no. I think this car is now too quick and too powerful for a manual gearbox. I think you would struggle to keep up. So anyone else, if I've missed your questions, I'm sorry, but those are the ones that jumped out to me. So I think time to, yes, start back up, head back onto this absolutely epic road. I'm so glad I came out here. If you are a car person and you're passing through Barcelona or even staying in Barcelona, I'll put a link to this road below. Come up and check it out. Do it early in the morning, because clearly that's when it's at its best. All in all, I am extremely grateful and thankful to Porsche UK for giving me the opportunity to spend some time with a Turbo S, because I'm not sure when I would have done so anyway. I will be so interested to see how the new 992 compares when it gets dropped off tomorrow. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you have, and make sure to subscribe for plenty more videos to come.